is all that you've got, but he's been here, just waiting for you to knock. So take his hand and plant your feet on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock.
Hi, welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight our guests are Greg and Lizzy. That is Greg and Lizzy Boudreaux. They're going to share their music and their reflections and their faith on marriage and family. They're chastity speakers, and maybe you've heard them at your parish or at an event. And full of faith, they're going to share with us their love of marriage, the call, the vocation to marriage tonight. And we're over here because we're going to do live music tonight. And so we have it set up over there to do their music later on in the show. But good to see you, Father Anthony.
It's good to be with you again, Father.
Yeah, Doug couldn't make it in, so Father Anthony's filling in for Doug. And this opening segment, I wanted to speak about marriage and the church's teaching. And we haven't gone to the UCAT in a while, and I thought there's a beautiful a description of marriage from the fourth commandment. It says, God himself in the depths of the Trinity is communion. In the human sphere, the family is the primordial image of communion. The family is the unique school of living in relationships. Nowhere do children grow up as well as in an intact family, in which they experience heartfelt affection, mutual respect, and responsibility for one another. Finally, faith grows in the family too. The family is, the church tells us, a miniature church, a domestic church, the radiance of which should invite others into this fellowship of faith, charity, and hope. And I thought that was such an inspiring definition of family. I know, Father, I was glad you could be on this opening segment because you prepare couples. You're in our community. You do that more than anybody. You prepare couples for marriage. What are some of the things you try to convey to them in that preparation?
Well, I think the explanation really, or the model of the Trinity for married love and family life is that there's this communion of persons, and yet there's a distinction between the Father, Son, and Spirit. And so even in a marriage, the two lives become one, but they don't merge and morph into each other, that you lose the distinction between this man and this woman. And the struggle, as we talk about the practical things of married life and family life, is it sounds so wonderful. Your lives are becoming one.
Right.
But that's not easy.
Right.
You know, you have two distinct wills that you're trying to
Unite.
become one of heart, one in heart and mind. And that's really where they resemble the Trinity. And then this love for one another that's fruitful and life-giving, as we find in God.
Right. And I like that image that, you know, we have God as primary, right? We're made in the image and likeness of God. So we image him individually, but we also image him in this community, this communion we call family. And it's this communion of life and love, as you said, that you give to the one another, you sacrifice for the one another. And I think that should give us all confidence in the holiness, the sacredness of the vocation to marriage. It's not just good, it's holy, right? And it images and participates in the very life and love of the Trinity. You know, so that's what's going on. And I could say as a priest, sometimes, you know, you're in the parish or something and you see it's very evident, maybe sometimes more powerfully evident in a young family with kids. Maybe it's clearer, but I remember it always kind of gets my attention. You know, there's something different about this group of people here. You know, you see a family there in Mass, and it's beautiful and inspiring. And, you know, it goes on to say, you know, a primary duty of the parents, of course, is to educate the children in the faith, to raise them up in the faith. And UCAT also speaks about how children witness and evangelize the parents. And it says, it's an interesting quote here. It says, parents stand in for their children for the faith, and said, but they haven't baptized, served as models of faith. This means that parents should make it possible for their children to experience how valuable and beneficial it is to live in the familiar presence of the loving God. At some time, however, the parents too learn from their children's faith and hear how God speaks through them, because the faith of young people is often accompanied by greater devotion and generosity, and because the Lord often reveals to a younger person what is better. That's St. Benedict of Nursia. So I've experienced that too with kids. I mean, obviously we see young people in the show every week, and they do have a generosity. You know, we can take back that generosity the older we get. But I know I had an experience last Sunday at Mass. A family I know, they were coming up for communion. I was burdened with whatever stuff's going on in Father Mark's world, but this young girl came up for communion with her family, 3 or 4 years old, and she just gave me the biggest, brightest smile, you know. And it just reminded me of the joy of the faith, the joy that God loves us, whatever burdens we have. I think kids can remind us of that freedom that we're called to as children of God.
Right.
And they image that and teach us that in a special way, don't they?
And they live, I think, in reality so much more differently than we do. They just love their mother and father. They trust them. It reminds us how we're to live in relationship, as you said, with our Heavenly Father.
Right.
But even a certain detachment they have from the ways of the world. When they're so little, they're not consumed with so many things that bother us as adults.
Right.
And you do see parents find a freedom in that.
Right.
That they, I think even with the questions that little children ask, or their curiosity about God, there's such a purity and a desire, a certain fascination, childlike fascination with asking the questions about God that make parents so many times even not doubt their own faith, but have to learn their own faith.
Right.
So many times parents will say, no, I've stopped learning English, math, science, all that. Same thing with religion, is they're having to communicate that to their little ones. They realize...
And they grow themselves,
Right.
right? Giving it away.
If they have to, understand
Right.
theology to communicate
Right,
it.
right. So that family is this primordial image of the communion of God. Primordial meaning from the beginning of time. It's fundamental. It's not defined by the state. It can't be changed by the state. It comes right from the very heart of God. And that's the greatness. If you have a vocation to married life and family, that's the greatness to which you're called. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Greg and Lizzy Boudreaux. Don't go away. Back in a moment. Please welcome Greg and Lizzy with Victorious Day.
Today is the day that the world is a better place. Today is the day that nothing can separate us so. Today is the day, love's victorious day. Today is the day.
Today is the day, every bruise and every wound. Speak not of death, but of love that has overruled, yeah. Today is the day, love's victorious day. Today is the day, love's victorious day. Make a way, this is love's victorious day.
Today is the day that the bride in white is adored.
Today is the day that the groom his beloved adores.
day. Make a way, make a way. This is love's victorious day. Yeah. The sword defeating his death soul, meaning the victors, leading are the pierced and bleeding. The veil's also for the strongest. Holds up the night, now give way to the dawn of love's victorious day. Today is the day.
Love's victorious day. Today is the day.
Make a way, make a way. This is love's victorious day. Today is the day. Love's victorious day. Make a way, make a way. Make a way, make a way. Make a way, make a way. This is love's victorious day.
That was great. Thank you so much for coming, Greg and Lizzy Boudreaux. Welcome to the show.
It's wonderful. You have great voices. Beautiful music.
Now that victorious day, that refers to what? I know, but God does.
Well,
Just to make it
Victoria's
clear.
Day, it's one of the songs from our new album called To the Dust, and it's particularly about our wedding day. And for us, Lizzy will tell you more about our story, but we dated for a really long time, and so for us, the day of our wedding was a day that was really a victory for us to at last to be at this moment, to be at the altar together. It was a victory for us, and I think the other side of that song is just the reality that every day that you and I, whether our vocation is priesthood, whether it's marriage, whether it's religious life, or whether you're just a young man or a young woman who's in that transitional period of life and you're single, like if we respond to God's call today, whatever that may be, however big or small, that today is a victorious day. It's a victory for love.
And you told me something interesting earlier. You said on that day you felt like genuflecting when you saw your bride. Tell us about
Absolutely.
that.
It was a completely overwhelming experience. Yeah, Lizzy and I, we did date for a very long time, and so we knew each other really well. You know, as we were best friends, you know, this is my fiance and everything else, but on the day of our wedding, as she came through the doors, it just was overwhelming, and I didn't really have much choice except to reverence the goodness, you know, to reverence the sacred that I saw in her, you know, and that was really the moment that it hit me that this is a sacrament, and this is a sacrament that we're entering into, and I'm actually looking into the eyes of my sacrament. And it was a powerful moment for me and for us, obviously.
And it harkens back to Genesis, right? When when Eve was brought to Adam, and he has that first love song of "At last, bone of my bone and flesh."
Absolutely.
After naming all the other animals, right, and realizing he has no partner there, right? He sees the woman, and he's overwhelmed, and that's been replayed throughout history, right? And the relationship between the man and the woman. Now, you primarily consider yourselves musicians, right? And you're working on a second album, but your first album is called To the Dust,
Yes.
right? And tell us how you view your music in terms of, you know, spreading the faith.
Well, our music, it's actually classified as pop music, and when we did it that way because we wanted to reach a bigger audience, we really thought that, you know, we could use music to get to our culture these days because, you know, the music that people listen to right now is not always, you know, doesn't have the best message. So we have our lyrics that are, Catholic and Christian based,
To
and
the
we,
core,
we use our lyrics and songs to minister to other people, just about love and about marriage and what it's supposed to look like.
Right, and certainly at your concerts, I mean, you would also give little talks about different issues of chastity and theology of the body and things.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting too, your album To the Dust, that you broke it down into like a relationship and its growth. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we have 3 instrumental songs, and then we have 10 other songs. And we kind of have it set out like a relationship. So we met when we were 16. So we have our first song, You Make Me Happy, and that's, when you first meet someone else, and, your eyes and your
The
hair,
rainbows and butterflies.
everything's wonderful.
The delight, skipping through the meadow.
And then from there we have, just our desire and ache for marriage and to, be united. And so we have, my song about what I'm hoping for in my spouse, and then Greg's song about, the proposal and finally asking me to marry him. And then we have Victoria's Day, which you just heard, which was, just about our wedding day.
Right.
And then from there, it goes down into the lies that creep in, after when you're married, the lies that you hear, and if you believe those lies, and those eventually separate couples. And then just asking for forgiveness, the importance of forgiveness, the importance of just realizing that Greg will not ultimately complete me, that God will complete me, and I can't look to him to fulfill every desire that I have, and then ultimately redemption, and just keeping on with what you're doing and living your life and your faith.
Yeah, I like that point about the lies, because that's what we see right in the garden and creation. We see the original couple is made, and then Satan gets in there and tells lies, and they believe that God is cruel, or God is harsh, or he is too limiting or something. What are some of the lies that maybe our young people hear today?
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that strikes me about Genesis is how almost instantaneously the enemy comes and questions God's goodness and the goodness of this love. Like it's not very, far after, at last, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, that you see the lies coming in, the division coming in, and the enemy trying to sow that division. And so I think what we've learned and what we've seen in the great examples of couples around us, and just the experience of life, is that as soon as God joins together something good, like the enemy is going to do his best to sow division there. And so some of the lies, it can be as simple as, in the course of daily life, it can be the simplest things. She meant to leave her clothes on the floor.
He did it on purpose.
Or whatever. Just this. It can be the simplest little things. It doesn't have to be a great big thing, but it's sort of like the build-up.
And it seems like one of the big lies Satan's always telling us, married or single, is trying to get us to exalt ourselves, to focus on ourselves, to make it about us. And ultimately we wind up worshiping him, or the world, or the flesh, the devil in some way, when we start to exalt the self. And I like the vocation of marriage just tears that up, doesn't it? I mean, you have to, because you have to always be giving,
You have to think about the other person too,
Yeah.
and not just your own needs.
Right. Well, our next song that you're going to perform, introduce that for us.
Sure. Well, that one is actually about kind of what we talked about before. It's the song that I wrote. I tell everybody that, if the songs were children, we're our children, we couldn't have a favorite, but this is the baby of the family. So it's called What Wonder, and it's a song that's just about that experience that I had, especially as I saw Lizzy for the first time. And basically what happened was I had asked my best man, I told him, look, I'm going to close my eyes, and when she gets to the door, then tap me on the shoulder, and then, it'll be the moment that we've been waiting for. And so, first it's grandma, and she takes her time, and I'm waiting for my bride. There's like 30,000 bridesmaids and things like after that. And, but finally, after all that, finally just settling there and closing my eyes on the altar, and really experiencing this echo of Adam, of what he experienced in the garden, of Adam's heart, just being in a sense cast into this deep sleep, as I was just standing there for a moment with my eyes closed. And then finally hearing the music start, and finally hearing, everyone stand, and finally feeling my best man tap me on the shoulder, and just when I opened my eyes, beholding not just Lizzy, but beholding the face of Christ, beholding something, someone that is reverenced, beholding, like I said before, my sacrament, and realizing in this moment that this is the way that the Lord is calling me and her to salvation. And so in that moment, like you alluded to, like I was so overwhelmed that, in the presence of the sacred, I think we bow. And so all I could do was just genuflect there on the altar as she approached.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Well, that's a great testament to faith, that Jesus is in that sacrament and the spouses encounter Jesus through each other. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back with that song, What Wonder. So don't go away.
I see your goodness all around, birds that sing, air to breathe, but still I find that I'm alone. This garden's gazing back at me at last. At last. And oh, what a wonder to gaze into eyes made to gaze into mine. And oh, what all this rib of my side, I'm fully alive, life of my love of my life. You're the love of my life.
So that was What Wonder, inspired at that moment of your wedding. And let's talk about the whole courtship. I know you guys have quite a story. You met in high school or even before that?
Yeah, we met. I was a sophomore and he was a junior in high school, and I went to the Catholic all-girls school and he went to the all-boys school. It was actually in a musical, Guys and Dolls, and Greg was the drummer, and I basically had no part at all, so I had a lot of extra time on my hands. So we just got to be friends through the musical, and on the last day he asked for my phone number.
It took a lot of courage. It took like everything. I actually didn't do it for like 3 times. I tried 3 times.
He tried and failed 3 times, but
Yes.
he got it on the last time. And then just from there, we initially right off the bat, when we first talked, we knew that chastity was really important to us, and I think it was the very first phone conversation we had. You said, you know, I'm saving myself for marriage, and I said, well, so am I. And so it seemed like an easy thing at first, but it's definitely a struggle. But we're really glad that we made that commitment to each other. Just that very first time that we talked, it was just so important just to put out in the front, so there was no expectations or anything. My grandma warned me about Greg because he was the football captain, and she always, said stay away from them, but he turned out to be okay.
What position did you play then?
What do you think? Do you have a guess?
Lineman?
Fullback.
Fullback. Oh, wow. Running guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know that's very much part of your message at your concerts about chastity. And what do you tell young people about the importance of it? Why should they be chaste? Besides the commandment part of it.
Absolutely. Well, that's obviously the most important part of it, because the Lord has given us the commandments. He's given us the law, like, for our own good. And that's the thing that I think is hard to remember, is that especially like in high school and things like that, when we didn't have a fully developed, and we're still learning what chastity means in fullness, but the Lord has given us like the gift of His law, of His commandments, for our own good and for our own freedom, honestly. And that's the word, I think that's the key word for us, is that chastity, even though at times it might not have seemed like it, has been a source of great freedom to love each other well. It's given us the great gift of being able to, to at least strive to love as God loves, and that's really what the gift that He's given us through His plan of chastity.
Oftentimes in the culture, the church's teaching is just looked upon as like one big fat no about everything that's of value in life. What do you tell young people about that?
It's actually a yes. It's freedom. It's freedom in being chaste and being pure, and it's really in your best interest. We had to find, ways to be creative and to show each other we loved each other, which was great. Music was, a big part of it. I always said I wanted a boy to write songs about me in high school, and Greg was a drummer, so he said I gotta switch instruments. So he learned the guitar.
Yeah, and so even like chastity, like what you're saying, is like it gives you the ability. You learn how to be really creative in your love. It doesn't just become so narrow-minded, so focused on one thing or another.
Right, and you end up loving the other person and not using the other person, which is
reverence. Yeah,
really important.
And I think sometimes too, I know you mentioned this to me before, that our culture can lose a confidence, can lose the dream of love. I think you said that it's almost intoxicating. It's something written in our very nature. That's what we want, that promise of fulfillment, in a relationship. And yet, another way, we're always seeing that, but we lose confidence that there really is a true love out there, don't we?
Right, it's hard because I think a lot of people, especially in our generation, their parents are divorced, or other people, their siblings are divorced, and so they just feel like there's no hope, and true love doesn't exist, and I just can't have what it is in the movies that we see. But we think we have good examples in our lives, and we're so grateful for that. Just our parents are still together, and they're just great witness of love and marriage. And so what we're hoping through our music is that we can show people, love does exist. It's not always easy. It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows, but it does exist, and it, you can be happy.
And we almost, in the culture, it seems like we exist between this dichotomy. It's like we have Hollywood love, that we see in the chick flicks and the movies and everything else, and then we go and we try to repeat it, and it's just like a lot of times it seems like we just make a mess of it, and then so we end up maybe with this, maybe with with all these wounds, first of all, and then we start to think like, man, I guess I'm just not made for love, when the reality is that God has made us for something that's so much greater than Hollywood movie version of love,
Right.
And so really that's what our great hope with To the Dust, with the album is just to show just a more, especially to our peers, to show a more, I guess, authentic view of what love really is, the glory and the trial of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it seems like too often times in Hollywood, it's a very selfish love that's presented. What this person does for me and how
Right,
he
what
makes.
can I get out of it?
Right. My beef sometimes too is in some of these movies, guys are just shown like they're like a warm blanket that they can, they just sort of come in and just, there's no backbone, there's no spine, there's no person, they're just there to totally comfort her in some way, and I just take offense at that.
No, I'm with you. But I also see in Hollywood, they have some things so right. Like, how many chick flicks, I don't know how many y'all watch in the monastery, but like
Tons.
Brotherhood Nights, right? But how many chick flicks have you seen that end with a man that's pursuing, like, she's left or something, and he like gets on the plane at the last minute to chase her, and that's something that's so deep. Like, we go and buy tickets to these things because so deep in our hearts is like a woman's desire to be pursued and a man's desire to pursue.
So there's some truth there.
There is some truth there, I think.
Yeah. And well, maybe you could set up the next song. We're going to take a break and go to your next song. What's the name of your next one?
The next song is called Keep On.
Keep On.
And this is the last song on the album. And so as you journey through the album, it's kind of one cohesive story. And Keep On is really, it's really that song that's just, it's basically saying, no matter where you are, no matter where you've been, if your heart is beating today, and if your lungs are breathing today, the Lord is putting that there. The Lord is the one who is breathing existence into your body. And so keep on with whatever the mission is that He has for you today.
Okay, well, so we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with Keep On.
Your lungs are barely breathing, your tongue is tied from speaking, you're numb from still believing, your heart is made for beating.
People will hear me singing, people will hear me singing. If you're a human being, your heart is made for beating.
My dad is always working, my mother's heart is broken, my family's home is choking, the pain is all unspoken.
People hear me singing, people hear me singing. If you're human bleeding, your heart is made for beating. Oh, 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 keep on, keep on. Oh, 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 keep on, keep on.
Your faith is feeling shaken, your hope seems mistaken, your charity not taken, your heart is not forsaken.
People hear me singing, people hear me singing. If you're a human being, your heart is made for beating. Oh, 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 keep on, keep on. Oh, 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 keep on, keep on.
we'll have, I think, Father Anthony, you got a question for our guests.
Well, after that, it's just like, I would just tell both of you what a tremendous gift that you have to share this together. Most couples, it probably would help them if they could write music together. But I think one of the gifts that comes out of this is the ability to reveal your hearts, not only to one another, but to all of us, you know, when you're doing something artistic. But when you were talking about falling in love in the previous segment, I think that's what we find so often, Father, with couples who are run into a rough spot in their marriage. They've lost this fascination with each other. You know, it's important to build up that friendship and to keep our attention on one another. And so often as priests, we have to get in there and remind them of this fascination with this other person that we fell in love with, and to stir that up again. Same thing in the spiritual life. When we kind of stop praying, we forget that Jesus is fascinated with us, and he wants to know us, and we need to keep alive that fascination with him. I think it's tremendous. You guys just got me set on fire.
Can't wait to hear your song.
You don't want to hear it.
Well, that reminds me of a point you make strongly that I think what Father is talking about is that, you know, the male and the female image different perfections of God, and in that union and love you have for each other, you experience something of this union we're called to have with God. But you make the point about the Song of Songs. What do you say about that? That was an interesting, how that's the deepest fulfillment.
Well, there's another song that's on the album, and it's called My Best Song. And what it talks about is it wrestles with the fact that no matter how hard I try, and no matter how hard Lizzy tries, there's parts of our hearts that we will never be able to satisfy. That I can never. There's things that I can never give Lizzy or do for Lizzy that you know, that I wish I could. But those are just the parts of each of us that are made for God, and those are the things actually when we, you know, when we actually realize like that's happening. It's actually kind of a gift to see that there's a part of my heart that's not made for here. There's a part of my heart that's made only for union with God. And so I'm gonna have aches, I'm gonna have longings, I'm gonna have desires that the other can't fulfill, and that's good and that's natural. And I think when we realize that, it gives us the gift of being able to take that pressure off of each other. You know,
because we know so many people that, you know, they're expecting so much when they get married and their spouse and just being their everything, and it's just so hard for their spouse, and they end up sucking the life out of them because it's, you know, so much pressure on them to fulfill their every desire, and ultimately they can't, and they're going to fail. Right. And they're going to be disappointed.
Because you have made us for yourself, O God, and my heart will not rest until we rest in you.
Right.
Not in Lizzy, ultimately.
Right.
Though here on earth, like he's giving us that great gift of experiencing his love and of hearing his voice through each other in an ultimate kind of way. Like there's parts of us and the architecture of being a human being that are only made for him.
Yeah, so the Song of Songs, being a book of the Bible that has this great poetic image of love, elevates human love, but it's an image of God's love for the soul, right? And so the song about keep on keeping on, we could say. I mean, there's difficulties though, right? I mean, there's sacrifice. You've been married 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Almost two.
And it was a big adjustment just when we got married, and you know, we dated for 9 years, and I thought that I knew him, and then, you know, we got married and we had to live together, and it was like all these new things were, I was like, where is this, you know, the toothpaste, that was our big issue. Apparently I squeezed it wrong or something, I don't know. But just all these things you don't really know about somebody, and then you get married and you just learn, and you just have to laugh about it. We just write songs about it is what ends up happening. If we have a troubled spot or, you know, something, you know, goes wrong, we just, communication is just so key, and just, you know, praying every day, all the time with each other, you know, just to get us through the day and help us.
And like the struggles, again, that's another kind of natural part of relationship that you don't see in the chick flicks, in the Hollywood movies. Like you don't really see very much of the struggles and the way that's resolved, and that takes, a lot of that will take time. And so, like we said, we've only been married for less than 2 years, and like it's
a lot to learn.
We have a whole lot to learn, and so to be here today, one of the struggles uniquely for us is to know that, you know, there's certain ways of a certain depth of loving each other that we won't even obtain until more time has gone by,
Right,
you know.
sure.
So
What
I
is
would give you a word of counsel, you know, instead of
Yes.
looking at the chick flick, you got to do what the Friars do. If it's not going your way, you just watch this action film where you blow up the whole world and, you know, you come out victorious in the end.
absolutely. I'm coming over to your place.
Well, tell us about the mission of Greg and Lizzy, your music.
Well, we just really feel like, you know, we weren't really going to even make an album. We just started, we got married, and we just started writing music. And we played it for some people, and they were like, wow, you know, the message is really great behind these songs. And so we decided, we were like, okay, God, are you calling us to make an album? And so we ended up writing these 10 songs, and we went to Nashville, and we were so blessed we were able to record in Nashville. We lived there for the month. And we're like, we can't afford this, you know, like this is a high budget, you know, project. We don't know what we're gonna do. So we did this crowdfunding website where people could donate money to our album. And so we ended up raising all the money that we needed through this website, just through people that, you know, we had met years ago even, that were just really excited about our mission and just helping marriage, because I feel like marriage now is just being attacked in the world, and we just really wanted good examples of marriage out there and let people know that you can have a good marriage. You don't, you know, have to get divorced, and it's not supposed to be like that. And so just to make these songs, and hopefully that they'll touch people in different ways.
Yeah, I love that image, the meaning of that, I guess, being supported by this group of people that you're going to sing to and use your creative talents to serve. And what role does music have in this new evangelization we're being called to? What have you seen in the lives of young people through your concerts?
Well, one thing that we see is you know, we talk a lot in the faith. We talk a lot about the head and the heart, and so I think a lot of times we get the very necessary and the very needed head information, if that makes sense. Like we get a talk on these points, these things, chastity, whatever it is, you know. And a lot of times it's hard to take all this information and translate it to something that's integrated, not just here, and it's not just like a rule, again, that I'm living by, but it's something that's integrated into me as a man, into me as a person. That and so I think that things like music, things like art, beauty in general, I think is one of the ways that God like breaks our heart in a really good way, so that
Opens us up.
yeah, so that we can be open to receiving in a more integrated way all these plans He has for us.
Right. And so what kind of events do you have coming up that you'd like to maybe advertise here, or do you have concerts?
I'm trying to think of our calendar.
Well, they can find your calendar at your website. Why don't you
Absolutely.
give the website?
It's,
It's www.gregandlizzy.com, and we've been writing some new songs now, just since we've produced this album just this past year. We already have new stuff that we're working on. So hopefully we'll get to go back to Nashville pretty soon and record our new songs.
And then you also, are you working for Dumb Ox Ministries?
Dumb Ox Ministries.
Tell us about that.
Well, the name is a funny name, and there's a reason for that, so I'm sure you want to know. Dumb Ox was the nickname of St. Thomas Aquinas, and he's our patron saint. And so the ministry that I work for, we also do a lot of, you know, we obviously have a profound respect for him being one of the greatest theologians of all time. But so we
So you
hope
mean no
to
disrespect by saying the Dumb
no, we weren't comparing. But we produce a lot of resources, especially espousing the theology of the body, Blessed John Paul II's theology of the body. And our mission is to just to form the church, form young people, especially in chastity, in their vocation, in God's call in their life. And to do that primarily through the lens of the theology of the body, which we feel like is a real gift to this generation that in a sense needs to see their design, needs to see the way that they have been created. So.
Right. I know you talk a lot about the theology of the body. Was there some particular aspect of it that really got you, that really stirred your heart? I'd
I'd have to go way back to remember the first time I even encountered it, But I think the thing that most has informed and stirred my heart has just been finally, it's like finally I understand maybe just a little bit of what it means to be a man, you know?
Yeah.
And finally I understand just a little bit of what it means to be loved and to love.
Right.
And finally I understand how Christ's sacrifice on the cross was perfect love, and how I'm called to become like him.
Right.
Mm.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your music with us.
Absolutely.
And I hope to have you back on. And
Absolutely.
when the family gets going there.
Yeah. All the kids.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for having us. It's been a gift.
Yeah.
Thank you, Father.
Well, may our Heavenly Father shine His face upon you. May He give you His peace. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week.